So why is there suffering at all? Why is there suffering at all in the world? This is a very powerful question, but it's simple. The reason why there is suffering in the world is because of two things. One, people have not realized the only reasonable thing to be realized, which is to know peace and bliss. So love one another. The masses have not realized that to love one another is the biggest and the only reasonable ambition that we can come together to achieve as a collective humanity. And secondly, we have not distributed the resources and the wealth of the world equally. And we'll come to that in further videos and talk about political systems and economic philosophies and all that. But the thing is this, suffering is our creation. The misery and the suffering in the world is not caused by any sin or by any spirit or demon. The suffering in the world is caused by man himself. It is caused by the people who live in the world. These sufferings, it's our creation, and we can end it. So when you ask why there is no suffering, or when we ask why there is suffering, we ask why there is suffering, there is no need to even ask, because from the way you do things, from the way the majority of human beings do things, there is bound to be suffering. Because people are doing things from the dimension of greed, by trampling upon others. People are not doing things for the collective good, but for their personal gain alone. And this is why there is much suffering. Starving children, people who are dying, all kinds of misery, injustice everywhere in the world, because people are living for themselves alone. They have not awakened. They have not awakened to their real self. They've not awakened to the fact that love is the only supreme thing that we should all follow. To love one another and to distribute the wealth and resources of Mother Nature equally among our children. So because we've not been able to do these two things, then there is suffering in the world. And then we'll have millions and millions of people who are lacking and who are suffering and who are starving. And we'll have a few who are extremely rich, because everything is based on greed and self-interest. Not the common interest, but self-interest. And it is beginning to become the norm. Okay? A politician, a musician, any great professional in any field makes millions and millions of dollars, and it doesn't think about the poor, doesn't think about the suffering, doesn't think about people around the world who do not have or who lack. And yet, people who worship these people who hold so much wealth, but yet cannot distribute to those they see that are suffering, to those that they are seeing that are dying on the streets. Now, when you worship this kind of people who do not care about love for their fellow starving, dying humans, then we are contributing to more suffering. Look at all your idols and all your heroes. They are all terrible people because they hold so much wealth and they do not care about the poor, except for a few. So this is it. We have to work towards a system to distribute the wealth of nature more equally. And we have to learn to love one another in a very deeper sense. We have to see things from a collective good. This is the sum of all the religions. The sum of all the religions is to know love and to love one another. This is the sum of all the religions in the world. Everything aside from love makes no sense. Because with love, we can have a better world. And with distributing the wealth of the world equally, we can have a better world. Now, to talk about how to distribute this wealth will be a different issue. We can address that in some other video. But because we've not addressed these two things yet, that is why we have so much misery and so much suffering in the world. Although there is still some other things which we can call suffering, like illnesses and sicknesses that we cannot heal. Some kind of things that happen to us that we have no control over. Those things are part of the suffering of life, but at least they could be endured. They could serve as a lesson to a certain extent. But 90% of the problems and suffering in the world are the creation of men. They are not things we cannot control, but they are things which we created. They are sufferings which we created, and we can destroy them completely. So, suffering is here because of us. Because we are here, therefore there is suffering. Because we are the ones who creates this suffering, who maintains this suffering, who continue to make sure that this suffering will not die off. Because we want to hold on to greed and self-interest and wickedness. We humans are the only God we see, and we are the only devils we see. So humans are playing both the role of a divine God and of the devil. So the only devil there is amongst humans. The only demon, the only Satan is among humans. And because human beings have decided to be evil, to value their own selfish interest above every other thing, because of this, there is more and more and more suffering every day in the world. So until we are ready to make a conscious effort to not only change ourselves internally, that is to say, go through an inner transformation that will make us more loving, but also we have to go through an outer revolution to change the physical structure of our nations, of our government, of our politics, to distribute the wealth of nature more equally. Until we do this, there will be more and more suffering in the world. So this is the simple reason. There have been all kinds of nonsense philosophies trying to explain why there is suffering in the world, linking it to all kinds of things, sin, religion, all kinds of, linking it to so many things as God and Satan and all kinds of things, linking it to all these things. But the simple thing is simple. Two things. The wealth has not been distributed equally, and we don't live in love. We are not loving one another. This is the two reasons why there is suffering in the world. Because people are thinking themselves better than others, so highly than others. They're not willing to contribute in any way. So therefore, this is why there is suffering in the world, and we can break it through a conscious revolution led by enlightened souls. We can destroy suffering, or at least minimize it to a very reasonable extent.